Hey, it's TDA and welcome back to my Mississippian Tecumseh playthrough on Deity. This is my first game ever of Civilization VII, so I'm probably going to mess up here and there, but we're here to learn. Speaking of learning, we founded the first town at the end of the last episode, and remember, towns are not cities, so I can't build anything in there, but I can buy units, just with gold though, so there's no production. Instead, this production is actually turned into gold. This is going to be added to the actual gold production I have in the city, and that's going to supply our empire with more and more gold until I can actually turn this into a city. And you do that by actually spending gold once it's large enough, and then you can treat it like your capital and start building buildings and stuff like that. For the moment, this town is just focusing on itself, but later on you can also have your towns supporting your other cities. So this means that they are kind of like boosting your other cities to a higher level than they would reach by themselves. So this is a balancing act to do. I do think that generally speaking, having one or two towns for every city that you have is not a bad idea. But of course, I'm nowhere near that yet. So let's just start expanding this city. What direction do we go to? I'm inclined to go for the incense, because I can also pick up the gypsum on my way. There's also the gold and silver, both of which are extremely useful. But yeah, we can only move in one direction at a time. Now, let me double check if this is actually being allocated. It is not. This particular resource can only be assigned to a city, so not a town. That's worth noting. But we can assign it over here to get some additional production going. I am worried a little bit about having 3 hostile city-states next to me. I mean, it's better than actively entire civilizations trying to fight me, and they're kind of a buffer between me and the rest of the world for now. But yeah, these guys are going to be sending units at me, so I might need to defend myself pretty soon. Speaking of which, look who just turned up. I'm actually going to go into the city and buy myself a burning arrow, just to make sure I have some defense going in case we need it. We'll need some more units, and I definitely want a 3rd settlement as well, but for now I'm just gonna pick up the altar. Look at all of those juicy production tiles, and it's actually going to be quite hard to decide where to place it down, because honestly, placing it down anywhere will give me a huge amount of stuff. The nice thing is, it already calculates how much shields you will get depending on where you place it, and I think I am going to go for this location. This will give me the most science and culture, which is the main thing I'm lacking at the moment. There are some more angry units showing up over here, but they are all coming from the one village that I'm actually trying to befriend at the moment. So if I can just hold out for a couple more turns, then these guys will turn neutral and we should be, I think, okay. In the meanwhile, I am going to make sure these guys dig in. I can start constructing some fortifications. That makes it easier to defend. And I don't know, I might as well just start shooting, I guess, at this unit over here. If I can get in a hit first, they will be weakened and they should have a very hard time actually trying to attack my units over here. There we go, nicely fortified, and now if I take my archers once again, I can probably shoot at you and kill you, maybe? Did they just survive with like 1 HP left? Well, at least they won't be much of a threat anymore. It's worth noting that these arrows are actually putting the ground on fire, as you can see. Now, what does that do? I have no idea, because I can't actually find it in the game information, but I assume that's going to do some ongoing damage on any unit standing in there. Meanwhile, it's not just the city-states picking a fight with me, because apparently Xerxes is kind of done with me. He's denouncing me. I could spend... Well, if I had it, I could spend a lot of influence making sure he didn't denounce me and therefore not reduce our relationship, but right now I can't do anything. This is going to reduce our relationship by a lot. 60 is quite a bit, so I have a feeling we might need that army to defend ourselves against Xerxes as well. So I guess with the altar done, we're moving on to making some more burning arrows. Well, that's interesting. There's a lot of units from Xerxes over here, and they all seem to be damaged. I have no idea who they're fighting, though. Maybe the Incans are over here in the corner? I haven't actually found them yet, which is interesting. Even though Xerxes did get denounced for settling too close to the other one's capital. So, I have no idea what's happening here. Ah, okay. So apparently he's trying to take out the city-state over here. That makes sense. But I have my own problems, because new units keep showing up to try and take my town. This time around they're coming from this city-state over here. But we do have our army commander coming in soon, along with some more archers. So hopefully I will be able to push through this, because otherwise this is going to be a very short game. Meanwhile, my main city keeps growing, and I can now pick up the cotton and actually connect my borders to each other. That should also mean if we go to the resources, I have now allocated all the resources I can to my capital. So if we have any more of them, we're going to need to make some decisions. Although we can also put one in our town. Just depends a little bit on what benefits us the most. Oh, and apparently getting the cotton triggered another narrative event. A sign of truly living well, says the seamstress, is when we can make clothes expressive, not just practical. So if we go for this, we will get some culture. If we go for this, we get 50 happiness. Neither of those are particularly awesome, but I am gonna go for the happiness mostly because this is only like 1.5 turn worth of culture right now. This is definitely, in terms of my actual progress, worth more. Our second burning arrow is ready, but I'm gonna go and churn out yet another one because we are definitely going to need all those defenses. Generally speaking, you want to have at least 2 or 3 military units per city. Depends a little bit on how well defended your area is, how open it is. Right now my area is really open and really hard to defend, so having at least 4 or 5 military units is definitely going to be needed in order to make sure I don't get overrun. My town over here is actually in a little bit of trouble, but if I do something like this... Oh, hold on, I wanted to select that archer. If I move over here, can I still fire? Yeah, I can. I'm going to fire at these guys that are actually taking advantage of my own defenses, but that's okay. And then I'm going to move my melee unit in my town to make sure it's defended. And as you can see, we are under siege. We are kind of losing, but these units are not going to be able to win against what I have over here because they're down on HP quite a bit as well. And there we go, we have the new civic unlock discipline that will give us an army commander, and that's going to massively boost the power of our military. The problem is, however, that there's more units coming in, so this is definitely not going like I've planned. And that means we have another decision to make, because I could go for the mastery, for example, of discipline and get one of the policies that can give me a bonus against independent powers. Alternatively, what I could do is go for code of laws and get the oratory policy that will give me more influence, which would help me actually befriend those people. So both of these options are perfectly fine. I think I'm actually going to go for code of laws because I do also want to get my trade routes going. On the bright side, Naktipanon just went neutral because we have now enough a reputation with them in order for them to become friendly, and if we keep this up for 50 more turns, we'll actually become their suzerain. Alrighty, so let's get our army commander moving to the front lines, and hopefully that will mean we can get rid of all of these units and get some experience for our commander while we're at it. The units themselves don't actually gain experience anymore, but the army commander does, and as it does so, you can start to upgrade it. There's a couple of different talent trees that you can pick from. If you complete one of these trees, you can actually get some very strong commendations that buff your commander even further. These are really the core of your army. If you lose an army commander, that's a pretty massive loss, but units themselves are pretty expendable. Which I guess I shouldn't have said, because the moment I said it, one of the slingers over here took out my burning arrow that was defending the city over here. I'm actually going to... let's see, what can I do? I can move my commander up a little bit. I can start moving up my burning arrow, and then hopefully I can still range attack. Yes. I can shoot at these guys and get some experience for my commander. Can I? Yeah, I can go and attack over here. There we go. Can I still move away? Because this unit is about to die, so hopefully the slinger will just ignore them. And I'm also not entirely sure how the burning will interact with my own unit, but I guess we're about to find out. Meanwhile, my production in my capital is up so high that I can now produce units in a single turn, so that's exactly what we're going to do. I might just want to mix in 1 or 2 warriors to make sure we have some melee units as well. Well then, my own units just died from the burning. I guess that's something I need to keep into consideration while defending my own towns then. So, you know, let's produce another warrior. I hope you're enjoying actually seeing the ugly parts of a game as well, because I see a lot of YouTubers just showing like amazing victories, and of course those are really entertaining to watch as well, but learning from my mistakes will help you as well. At least that's what I'm going for. So let me know in the comments if you like to see that stuff or not, because, well, if you don't, I might as well just show you only my victories. Speaking of which, I was just 1 turn too late to actually reach my city to be able to defend it anymore, and that means that my city just got taken by the barbarians. I don't think we should have too much trouble kicking them right back out again, but yeah, it's a little unfortunate. It does allow me to use my focus fire ability that is going to have every single archer fire on the enemy at the same time, putting my city on fire as well. But yeah, as you can see, with 1 shot we just had all those units attacking at the same time. It's a really convenient new feature in Civilization VII. In the meanwhile, we unlocked masonry for some additional production, and we now have the monument available to us if that's what we want to build. I think I'm gonna move on to, let's see, we have irrigation that would give me another settlement limit, but that's not necessarily what we need right now. So I think I'm gonna go for writing to perhaps get a library up and running to get some more science, because we are falling a little bit behind on that. Well, I took my city back, even though one of the districts was raised in the process, so that was a very important but also expensive lesson to not leave your cities undefended for too long. On the bright side, it unlocked Spain for the next exploration phase, if that's what we would want to pick, because apparently in order to unlock them, you need to reconquer a lost settlement. Oh boy, Xerxes is on his way with his commander and his army, and this looks really impressive, but this is just a packed up army. He can just deploy these right next to my city if he wants, and then start wailing on me. Luckily, I do now have quite a few units here. I have 2 warriors and 2 burning archers. Burning arrows, I should say, with burning arrows. But anyway, yeah, not entirely sure this is going to be enough, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. At the very least, clearing out barbarians leveled my commander up, and I think we're going to go for the bastion upgrade for some more defense, because we're going to be doing plenty of that. With all that fighting going on, I actually kind of forgot I had enough influence to start befriending some more independents, and I am going to make sure that the guys that just attacked me will never do so again, and in 15 turns they'll become neutral to me. Well, Xerxes just unpacked his army. It's just 3 of these warriors, so I think we should be fine considering the defenses we have. And we're also digging in just to make sure that we have some good thing going. Now, he could just go around and go for this town, which is a little bit inconvenient, but I am hoping we should be able to keep him away. Where are you going? I think he decided that I am a little bit too well defended, and he just turned around and went off. I'm not entirely sure why he left his commander behind though, but yeah, I'm not at war with him, so I'm not able to kind of snipe this guy while he's standing there right next to my army, unfortunately. Okay, so having stabilized a little bit, I think we can churn out another settler and go for our 3rd settlement now. My relationship with Nagtipunan is actually going pretty well, and they bestowed a gift on me. I just don't know what the gift is, and I am not entirely sure where I can see this. Sometimes they, I think, give units and things like that, but as far as I can tell, I didn't get any of that. But what I did get, I have no idea. It's not resources as far as I can tell, because I have nothing new to allocate. And yeah, by the way, I lost one of those resources when my city district got raised over here. But yeah, it's a mystery to me. Oh, apparently I needed to click the narrative choice because I'm getting a free warrior as a gift. Well, that works for me. I do now have a pretty nice standing army, so I should be safe from Xerxes, I think. And I have my district back up and running, so we're kind of back where we left off. Now, I definitely want to get that 3rd settlement going ASAP. How far behind am I on everything? The answer is quite a bit. Well, it's Deity after all, so let's keep that in mind. It's interesting that the Incas only have 1 settlement, even though they have 54 science. I'm not sure how they're doing that with just a single settlement, but I mean, holy crap. Oh, there we go, we met Isabella, queen of these lands. Well, I'm not sure which lands you mean, but these lands are definitely mine. How are we on influence? Well, I actually kind of want to save up to befriend yet another one of these independent states, so I'm just gonna be neutral to her. She's probably quite far away anyway. The 2nd settler is done, so I'm moving on now to the monument to give our culture a little bit boost, the growth as well, and get some more of those juicy influence points going. Now, where are we going to place that? I think the obvious answer is probably over here, so we can get both the food as well as the culture. We could let 3 culture over here, but no food, so I think this is the optimal choice. And look, I found the Incans. They're over here in the corner, actually quite far away, so I'm thinking the settlement that the persons were talking about earlier that actually gave me that influence was because they were settling close to me. Huh, interesting. So with that settler ready, let's see if we can use this pack up ability that is going to assemble all the adjacent units to this thing. The answer is, yeah, that would work if the other units hadn't moved already. I was just trying to test that out, but the settler is actually in my army commander's like inventory now, so to say. So it makes it really easy to move around a protected unit across the map. And there is Isabella in the bottom left corner of our continent. I think that probably covers all the civilizations we're going to meet for now. I'm not entirely sure how much there are on a normal map on a standard difficulty, but as you can see, we're pretty much all in our own corner of the map, so we'll be competing for the middle. And again, that's why we just made that settler, because I do want to take this corner over here, hopefully also befriend all of these city-states, and we have carved out almost like a third of the map, which is more than our fair share. Okay, let's try pushing this whole packing in button once again. There we go, the entire army is now assembled and we can start moving our army commander across the map. And it's awesome because this army commander can actually move faster than a normal unit. So yeah, This is a pretty effective way of transporting your army. You do need to unpack and pack, of course, your army, so there's some movement wasted there, but all in all, it's a pretty nice feature, I think. What I'm not terribly happy about is that Xerxes just completed the Terracotta Army World Wonder, and he also has 4 settlements now. If you compare it to everyone else, these guys are just on 1 or 2 settlements. He's on 4, and he's my most direct neighbor, so if he's gonna pick a fight with anyone, it's probably going to be me. Yeah. Okie dokie, so we just unlocked writing, and that means that we can now start building a library in our capital if we would want to. I'm just producing 1 or 2 more military units to make sure I can stand up to Xerxes, but we have a pretty nice standing army now. We have, let's see, 4 units over here and have another 3 in here, so all in all, that's turning out pretty nicely. And just as important, we are now suzerain of Naktipunan, and that means that basically they're our ally. We have not control over their units, but they do have a nice little army themselves, so they're going to help us in any war that we get into. We have another narrative event, and I can pick between 25 culture or 50 gold. Now, in this case, even though 50 gold is 5 turns worth of gold and the 25 is only about 1.5 turn, I'm actually going to go for the culture because this will progress me towards my next civic. Speaking of events, I have another one. This is about storytelling, and I can either pick between getting 1 codex or 75 influence, and both of these choices are really good. However, I'm going to go for the codex, and I'll show you why. During each age, there are 4 different legacy paths you need to kind of progress through. You don't need to do this, but the more you progress through this, the more bonuses you will get, and if you don't progress through it at all, you will earn yourself a dark age in the next age, basically. So, for example, for the science, if I don't get at least 3 codices, I now have 1, then I will go into a dark age and I would get minus 50% science. I do get some boosts every now and then, but you typically don't want to get into a dark age. Now, for the science, we need codices. For the economic, we need resources assigned to our settlement. So we're actually already pretty close to getting the first marker over here. For military, we need to have as many towns and cities as we can, up to 12 to complete the entire path, which is quite a lot, honestly. So I'll settle for about half of this. And for culture, we're going to need world wonders. We need to have 2 world wonders in order to not get a dark age. So this is kind of the minimum limit that we're aiming for. We are about 24% through the first age, although it's probably a little bit more than that, because usually the age ends somewhere around 120, 150 turns, depending a little bit on how fast you are and how fast everyone else is going. Because as you are progressing through those paths, the age actually speeds up, mostly to prevent someone from just lagging on behind and dragging everyone else's speed down. However, more importantly, we get to pick our suzerain bonus for being suzerain of Naktipunan. I'm gonna go, there's actually a lot of good choices here. They're all military because this is a military city-state, but maybe buffing our ranged units for every city-state we're suzerain of, which right now is just 1, is not a bad idea. I mean, we have a lot of those burning arrows, so this would make them stronger. Alternatively, this one is similar, but that would apply to the warrior units. But we have a special unit that is a ranged unit, so let's go with that one. And I'm just being showered in narrative events, probably because I just completed a quest, and so now I get an option to get on a new quest. If we complete this quest, specifically have an alliance with another civilization, we would get 1 diplomatic attribute point for our leader, which would be really good. Alternatively, we can just pick 25 culture, but honestly, this seems not worth it compared to the potential upside that this will bring us, because this would be permanent moving forward. So that would be really strong. I'm not really sure who we would want to befriend. Well, we would want to befriend Xerxes, but that's probably not going to happen. But maybe the Incans, they're on the other side of the map. They have no reason to dislike us, so we could start spending some influence on them to start with that. However, before we do that, there are some more city-states I want to deal with. Now, this one is actually being befriended by the Mayans, Incans, what are they called? Mayans. How about this one? This one is not being befriended by anyone yet, so I'm gonna start that because I want at least 2 of those city-states to be my friend. There's one over here in the corner, which is probably not ideal because I have a feeling this might get wiped out by Xerxes pretty fast. And I was already working on this one, right? I didn't forget that. No, yeah, I was already working on that. So that would actually bring us up to 3 city-states. If we get all 3 of these on our side, I think we are in a pretty good spot with that. So we can spend the remaining influence that we have on potentially becoming friends with the Incans. And you're going to have to forgive me. I keep saying Incans, but there's the Mayans over here. What's Isabella playing, actually? Egypt. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing in this particular version of Civilization because the leaders do not necessarily match up to what you would expect. Xerxes actually does. But yeah, Isabella of the Egyptians, not so much. Anyway, let's keep working on some progress. I'm gonna go for irrigation next. That will increase my settlement limit, and we might be interested in picking up that 4th settlement soon as well. Well, at least Isabella seems to be wanting to cooperate with us. Sadly, we don't have the influence to spend to support this, but at least we're going to get some free money out of the farming market. More importantly, however, we can now move our settler to this juicy spot over here and make another settlement, which will be Kansa. As you can see, another road up and running, and that means that if we are going to be looking at a 4th settlement, we need to decide in what direction we're going to move. I'm really tempted to settle over here. That would make this a lot more defensible, but that is going to put me at odds with the Persians over here. Now, if they are going to attack me, they will most likely just go straight here. The II is not that smart, and I can just defend over here in that single town. So, something to consider, but first of all we have to raise our settlement limit. That won't take that long, it's 9 turns away, so we could already start looking into a settler. I might also want to explore up here, because even though there's a lot of ice up here, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a suitable location to settle, so I'm gonna send up my burning arrow to explore there. And I'll also build a library in my capital, because, well, this is going to be a massive boost to the science compared to what I'm currently producing. In other news, we now have Code of Laws unlocked, which will allow me to start building some of these merchants to get my trading going. I'm actually also going to get a free merchant from this, so that will kickstart that process. And now we have a new civic unlocked, we can swap our policies again. I'm actually going to take out toolmaking, because the 1 production and 1 science is nice, but it's not super powerful. I'm going to switch this to the 2 influence per turn to try and kickstart that alliance that I need to get going with one of the other 2 civilizations. Okay, so here's the thing. I am going to have to consolidate my power in the corner over here, and then we're going to need to make a decision. Do we deal with Xerxes, for example, he doesn't like me already anyway, and get some military points that way, or do I just keep building up my infrastructure, my culture and stuff like that, and get some points that way? I also need to take into consideration that these city-states are not going to be there in the next age. They will disappear. There might be new city-states as well, but I can't rely on being that they're suzerain forever. I have 3 of those incoming, and you can actually incorporate them into your own cities by using this pretty expensive option in the bottom over here. This would actually make it into one of my own towns. It's a nice way to expand if that is what we want to do. Long story short, I have a lot of choices to make. For now, what I'm thinking is I'm going to pick up this mastery for discipline. That will give me the Gate of All Nations Wonder to build. And if I build that, I'll get 2 support on all wars forever. That's going to be extremely useful. And then after that, I'm going to go into the Mississippian civics. The first one isn't that impressive. We get our special building, but other than that, just 10% bonus towards constructing more buildings. Not bad, but not like massively powerful or anything like that. But if I then pick up the mastery, I'm going to get an additional settlement limit. So that's always going to be useful. And I also get access to the Monk's Mount Wonder, which will allow me to assign more resources in my settlement. And that's going to help me get some legacy points towards economy. Those are some pretty all-round options, but they would go a long way to stabilizing from our earlier wars. We also got that merchant now, and we can send it over to one of the other cities in order to start a trade route. Now, I have a big problem with the UI over here, because even though you can see what you're going to get, you can't actually hover over it and see what this resource is. So I know this is silver, and I know I want this, and getting a trade relation going with Isabella is not bad either, but it would be nice if you could like see what you're doing here. But anyway, let's just get that started. I'm also going to start working a little bit on my relationship with Isabel, because, well, if I can get her into an alliance, I don't have to worry about my southern border anymore. And, well, there's a lot of benefits to be gained as well. For example, I can make all my units stronger. And let's see if she accepts this. She accepts it, so doesn't support it. That would have been the optimal solution, but apparently she doesn't have or doesn't want to spend the influence. But either way, my units just got stronger just by doing this action. Okay, so we completed the mastery of discipline, so now I can build that wonder if I want to. I'm still finishing up a settler, but maybe that we should start working on that afterwards. But I'm going to go working on earthworks now, so we can get that mastery and the settlement limit out of that soon as well. Speaking of settlement limit, I just unlocked irrigation, so that's nice, so I can actually use that settler. And then I'm actually going to go for the mastery of writing. That gives us another codex, which is important for the progress on the legacy path. It also gives me additional science on my science buildings, not a huge buff, but it'll all work towards getting a little bit more science going. And then I'm going to go straight after bronze working next, because that will give us the upgrade to the burning arrow, as well as allow us to upgrade our infantry. So all of this is going to make sure that if we get attacked or if we want to attack, we are in a good position to do so. As a side note, maybe stationing my army right next to a volcano was not the best thing, because this thing just erupted. It gave me a little bit of additional yield to my tiles, but it also nearly destroyed my army. I mean, they're still alive, don't get me wrong. We didn't lose anything, and I can just heal these up. But yeah, maybe putting your units next to a volcano, not the best way long term. I'm also going to start to work on the Gate of All Nations. Now, honestly, this is not going to give me any exciting yields, but if I place it down here and I build some more buildings, for example, here or here, that should get me some more bonuses long term. I'm also going to convert Kansa, the city here in the south, or I should say the town here in the south, into a city, allowing me to actually start to actively produce buildings here and stuff like that. I think having at least 2 of the cities in the early game is pretty much vital, because just being able to produce things in your capital, unless you're playing Rome, is probably not what you want to do. And by doing that, I can now assign more resources to my towns and cities, and I completed the first milestone for the economic path, which is going to make sure that I have at least 1 economic legacy point in the next age. We have a writing unlock now, which means we get an additional codex and we get some more science on all our science buildings. So, well, you know, our science is looking less atrocious now than it did before. Speaking of which, we just got another narrative event with the Dream Visitor. Apparently we have been visited by the Birdman, a powerful warrior holding a rattle. Well, anyway, the choice here is either gain 1 codex, which will help us towards our legacy path and give us additional science, or get about 2 turns worth of culture. I don't think this is a very difficult choice at all, because that just gave us our 3rd great work, and now we have completed the first milestone of the science path as well, so at least we get 1 scientific legacy point as well. My settler has also arrived in this location, so we can grab the marble and the gold and get our 4th settlement going. Now, it's going to be escorted by quite a large army, because I have a feeling Xerxes is not going to like this additional settlement over here. And I guess settling that 4th city triggered another narrative event, because we just got an expansionist attribute point. You use these points towards upgrading your leader, and of course those are very nice bonuses to have, although, well, getting 25% production bonus towards the settlers at this point in the age is not going to be useful, but remember, I'm going to be training more settlers in the future as well, and the further you get down this tree, the stronger this becomes. Now, if you start out with a couple of mementos, you can already assign a couple of these points from the beginning of the game, so of course that is definitely going to help you snowball more quickly. We also just became the suzerain of the 2nd city-state over here, and I'm going to select Shrines to the Jinn. This is going to give me a free civic when I become suzerain of a city-state, which I just did, so I will get 1 for free. But I'm also about to become suzerain of the 3rd one, so this is basically going to give me 2 entirely free civics. It is worth noting that you don't actually get to pick what you gain, so I just unlocked the Mastery of Mysticism, but hey, it's free stuff, it's going to be upgrades, it's going to add possibilities, so it's quite valuable still. And I think that's a nice place to stop this episode, because we carved out our little corner of the world over here. I think we're not doing that bad in terms of production either. I mean, we're catching up at least, let's put it like that. This is Deity, so remember the AI is kind of cheating and getting a lot of bonuses. But if you look at the signs, for example, well, just don't look at the Mayans. But other than that, we are kind of on par with those. The other resources that we're producing, again, we're still behind, but I can feel the snowball kicking into effect a little bit. If we look at the scores, actually, don't look at culture because we didn't build any wonders yet, but you know, the military is getting there, the science, we already completed the first thing, and so on. If we look at the rankings, well, Xerxes is obviously doing awesome, but other than that, we're actually not that far behind. If we look at the legacy points that we've gained, we're actually on par with Xerxes, and we're ahead of the other 2 nations that we met. So, like I said, it's Deity, so we're expected to be behind, at least initially, but I think we're very well on our way to catching up. So let's hope in the next episode I can show some snowballing happening and really take the lead. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you're still here, you're awesome, and I hope to catch you in the next one.